I've just been doing some clearing in the southwest corner of the main edible acres site, our 6-acre site, and I'm in the process of dealing with the tops of some rather large Scots pine and experimenting with some ideas of simple low movement hugelmounds and some brush walls. I'm going to share some notes with you. I've been doing clearing work in this southwest corner. In the main part is to bring a little more light in so we can grow some lower shrubs and trees, more productive beings than the Scots pine. We love the Scots pine, it makes a great windbreak, and as I go further north we'd like to keep that wall intact, but we need a little bit more light and air and room to start filling out these more complex and interesting areas. So that's why I've been felling in here, mainly using an electric chainsaw to take the branch tops apart. And you can see as I fell them and work with them, I lay them up with the butt ends facing in the direction I want to drag them. And most of these tops I'm going to bring over to the property line and weave in as a brush wall. The very southwest corner of the property is right where that white post is. And so just on the inside, on our side, I've been laying up these tops on top of some other prunings. A number of reasons. One, to get a little bit more privacy from our neighbors. Two, the dominant winds in the winter come from that direction, so the heavy snow loads and the sliding cold can get caught in here. Three, it makes some habitat for rabbits and wild birds, mice and voles, and the like. Four, it catches some of the spray from our neighbor's orchard. They spray fun things in the summer, and we don't want those fun things over here, so it'll help absorb that with a real fungal dominant presence. And so you can see we're planting out lots of characters. There's Osage orange and poplars and bamboos and willows and all sorts of other characters. But in the winter here, as I clear, you can see how the tops of those pines really fortify the boundary. So we're going to be adding some vining layers next season to this. But that helps really define the edge and create a nice corridor for deer to move through, but some protection from elements we may not want. And now in the case of the Scots pine, we're left with these chunks of wood. I chop them basically to the size that I can comfortably move them or uncomfortably move them. And so what do we do with these? We dry them and use them as firewood. Not ideal, pretty resinous and pitchy. We can't build with them. They're not really nice enough quality to try to bring a mill in. So in my opinion, the best thing to do is to return them to the earth and let them build soil. So hugelmounds. And when I felled this tree, it's probably about a 25-year-old tree, you can see the rings are starting to get smaller and smaller, which means it's slowing down a bit. And where this one tree stood, we should be able to plant another 5 to 10 smaller shrubs and a few overstory trees. So I don't feel too bad about cutting down a tree like this if we can grow more diversity. And you can see what I've done here is I just cut the log lengths into what I could manage and then rolled them into a circle around this stump. I'm not going to dig this stump out or grind it, simply leave it in position. We'll lay these logs here, and then I can start laying in some chunkier bits around and then some finer debris, and then eventually rake up the material and clean up what we did around here, and then finally cover that with soil. And here's one where I'm standing up the bits on end. It's a loose and quick way to make a permanent raised bed out of the materials that are on hand with the least amount of movement. So I'm going to get back to work and fill them up some more. Pretty exciting off to the west. I can really feel the weight of a nice heavy front sliding in a little bit, so I better shush up and actually get this work done. Starting to pack them and fill them, raking the material around them. Looks almost like bonfires, and in a way it almost is. It's a very slow consumption, an oxygen-rich consumption of organic material, but instead of being flames, it's fungal. Wow, it came out of nowhere. It was sunny an hour ago. If only you could feel how intense this wind is. I'm getting smacked with these little ice crystals. Nature's potent. think spending time in weather like this, really intense weather that makes you want to be inside, and sticking it out can help you really appreciate in general how easy we all have it, that we can go inside and sit by a fire or warm up or throw clothes in the dryer. Most of us have that access. It's kind of nice to push yourself to be in these sorts of spaces and times, thinking about the wild creatures that are stuck out here or some folks that are stuck out here, and to appreciate how lucky we actually are. If I was a little being in this landscape right now, I would definitely be tucked in on the east side of this brush wall right here. The snow comes flying in from the west, the wind comes from the west, and down in here you can tuck in and hide out and wait for the next thing. I would have liked to have taken these Hugelmounds further today, but I'm running out of light. My gloves are soaking wet and the wind is even heavier than it was before. But it's a good reminder, doing projects like this, it's not about getting them to the point where they're done, so to speak. It's about setting them in motion. And we've got Hugelmounds that are in all sorts of stages of decomposition and readiness to become gardens. And so long as I'm not in a huge rush to get production out of these right out of the gate, it can sit like this till the spring. Probably in a few days I'll come back and cap these with some soil. But if I get tied up with other stuff, that's fine too. That's the beauty of all of this sort of stuff, working with life systems, is you kind of set things in motion. You don't ever really actually finish anything. It's good to let go of that. The brush wall's woven up. All the debris, the mess that I made is cleaned up, and I can pack it in for the day. I'm going to come back in a few days and start planting this area out. We should be getting a thaw, be getting a whole bunch of gummies and sea berries and dwarf Siberian peaches and apples and chestnuts and hazelnuts and schisandra and hops and all these other characters in exchange for the canopy release of a few Scots pine. Thanks so much, Scots pine, for growing here. I look forward to growing more beings in your bodies as you decompose. And thanks for dealing with the incredible windiness of this video. And thank you all for being part of this channel. Hope 2019 treated you beautifully, and I hope 2020 gives you all sorts of great visions. Take care.